Good afternoon, collective. I hope you all are doing well. Today is 01 June 2024 in the Aquarian year. It's a set your day. This was wrote up at 6:16 p.m. So this is loaded, but it's necessary. Just like everything else that I do with, my heart's intentions. But, so today's the official day of LGBTQ plus Pride Month. So I'll be going over that, and this is in honor of that. And it's also in honor of my twin flame, who even though my twin is a very experienced shapeshifter, I don't practice that like I used to, but I used to do it unconsciously. But I was doing it. But in a way, I have done it because obviously, I am a lesbian, and it's all about the L's in leadership, and something about Democrats. I don't know why, but it's there. So, gosh dang, there's so much here. So I'm gonna kind of go down the list of like what was all encompassing from like the past energies. So whenever I start speaking about, why our souls have been, reincarnated here, and there is a energy to live out a section of karma, and it's gonna make sense. But I identify more as I'm a very unorthodox lesbian. That is just how I am. I don't celebrate Pride Month, or in a way, I guess you could say I'm very conservative, but not in the way that society looks at people that are or titles or labels. And I don't even like saying that, but I have to speak truth into it. But I'm very conservative in because there was I went through a series of contingencies before 333, as I said that. So a twin flame frequency and communication 3 times. So there's even my own twin flame, like she knew, but which I think was one of the things that kind of she read about my energy a long time ago, and she realized, hey, like something happened. And maybe that's whenever she started manifesting me. She read my energy. She knew that I didn't do quote gay or being a lesbian the way everybody else that maybe she came across did that, or lives out that energy, plays out that energy. But I didn't suspect. There's a lot of unexpecteds with my twin flame, but altogether, her and I both were given certain gifts to. One thing we both understood is how we live out prophecies from the Bible, and that is something happening across the collective. It's been happening, but now we're becoming more aware of it. And then 2025 is a spiritual year, so or the year of the spirit or whatever. And those numbers are significant, to me and or my twin and I's story. But this is part of that. So like right now, this is very intentional and very purposeful. And this is one that it's because I care a lot about my twin. I know that it was hard for her to make the transition and essentially in some way come out of the closet. But there are certain things that the collective didn't do when they came out of the closet. And I'm not saying they were wrong. I'm just saying, I've seen this over the years, and I just really want the LGBTQ plus community to understand and understand, UI, user interface, why you are the way you are, and it's and why we are the way we are, and that was the reasons for it. Is there was a lot of reasons I knew, but I knew it was to fill something from the Bible, because I thought it was just interesting how there was many people that came out when I was asking these questions when I was a preteen. I was like 12, 13 years old, and this is when I was very much, speaking truth about the Bible and teaching adults about Jesus, and because ultimately it's all about Jesus, having the Jesus heart. And I'll get to those notes later, but it's nobody really went against me like they did the others that were asking those questions. But I didn't have a fear of asking the questions. I had a weirdness, but I would always I wanted God to take that away, but it wouldn't go away, and I didn't understand and understand why. But I knew that there was something deeper, and then perhaps today is the day when I'm speaking truth to that, and that this is like 2 decades, a little more than 2 decades later, so or almost maybe exactly 20 years later, around there. But there was something else I did in the month of June around that same time, and that's, it was just a message about the chariot. So it's like I'm taking it away, taking all the bad energy away. I already did it earlier. Something weird happened, and then it happened, and now someone owes me for something. But anyways, I'm physically hungry, so because I'm physically hungry, I'm gonna make sure your souls get fed. And just like the military taught me with leadership, is if you're higher leadership, you feed the lower enlisted first before you get in there, and you feed your troops first before you get in there and get your grub on. But anyways, so the energies here and some of the truths that are gonna be sort of like they're gonna be like prophesied, but they're also gonna be like pretty much laid to rest. But these are the reasons, some of the reasons that go back in history of why LGBTQ plus exists. So one of them, woman leadership energy, divine feminine Christ, in high school literature, LIT Lit. I know that a lot of us at one point, I don't know if they still do it, but there was this book called The Odyssey, and it gave the story about Olympus, and it was the different gods. And I had an amazing English teacher that would use actual like figurines to tell the story. And I think I said that in one of my readings once, but it stuck with me, and like it's significant now more than ever. Um, so thank you to my teacher that did it like that. Um, then there is the Bible, Book of Numbers, the masculine war, um, the war gods, um, and the Romans' death. So Book of Romans, Book of Numbers. They're linked together, but the church won't teach you or hasn't taught about how that works out. But there is a verse in the Bible, and I didn't look it up, but I'll let someone else Google that, about worshiping the different gods. And so the Bible acknowledges that there are different gods. So different books have different gods speaking, perhaps. That's why, like, our MBTI, Myers-Briggs type indicator exists, for the UI, the understanding and understanding, the user interface of the different gods, quote, godheads, quote, God's mindsets. Then we have healing my twin flame, and then we have like, why have people bullied and hated on LGBTQ, and then the nautical star symbol was a lesbian signal in the past, and those stars are nauticals, knots, sailing, ships, wayfinders, mothers of the sea, SEA and SEE, like seers, because we're intuitive. So mothers of the sea, the ocean, and then Atlantis, and then IS. So with that said, initially I started this off with it started off with the color of shirt I wanted to wear today. Oddly, there was a photo of my twin that wore a very similar color, uh, and yeah, there's a photo of her wearing a similar color, and I didn't think about it until after I put on the shirt. I was like, where did I see this one before? Because I haven't worn this shirt in forever, but it's a bright, light, I won't say like salmon orange, but I guess it's a salmony orange color. But it started with me wanting to change my shirt, and I put this one on, and then I was like, there's something significant, and this energy came over me, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's this message needing to be done. And I had a lot of signs and signals. I started off my day with the numbers 999, and so I was just there yesterday, where there was a lot of lesbian signals my twin flame was sending me, and even for me, it's because I'm very conservative in that way, it was a lot. And even though they're just signals and weren't like physical talking, but it was just that's how careful and how seriously I have taken on that energy. And so it was just I'm happy for her, and I'm proud of her, for trying to speak her truth in the spirit, because I can see the spirit, and I send the energy back to her, and I'm very excited and proud of her, because I know the struggle, even though this is year 2024, and it's not as horrible, as it was before, but I feel like there's some other truths that, she needs to have unlocked for herself to make it make sense, because nobody told me the truths I'm about to speak into this when I was going through it, but I was very blessed and grateful to have the one particular individual that was 28, that was my one of my best friends, who's an older adult. When I was younger, when I was asking these questions, and of all the people, I couldn't ask my peers. But I went to someone older than me that I very much trusted, and she was very understanding, and the way that she pretty much embodied an angel of or one of them, that probably the one of compassion. When I needed to ask those questions, because it bothered me, because I did not understand why, if everyone, if we're taught in church, like you can't be gay, and if you are, this is what's going to happen to you. And for me, that was confusing, because I haven't ever, they say, like, fear God. I'm like, what one are we fearing here? Because I haven't ever, I'm not going to say I fear God, but, like, I've just always had, me and God and I have always had a source energy exchange, very direct, very profound and prophetic. Like this, I haven't ever had to fear God, because there's just something in my soul that I came here with a lot of different kinds of energies, in a like my soul, even though it's in this flesh suit, I'm not even gonna get into that part, but there's just a higher spiritual ranking that I have, and I just needed to come into this vessel to speak about these prophecies, and how they're already fulfilled. But I just didn't ever have to be afraid of God, and but people try to put the fear of God in me. It turns out I do that to others, but I don't try to do it on purpose. But I've said it intentionally, but I don't expect it just to happen. But people try to get me to fear God, and to make me feel like I was shunned. And this part's significant to why I am the way I am, because I wasn't given out, um, just these crazy, off the wall, messages about how to, be a Christian, how to walk in your faith, and like the things I would say were very profound, and that's why I had a lot of respect from a lot of older individuals in the church. But I didn't find that out, of course, until like years, over a decade later, after I'd already left the church, or that specific church. But I hadn't really found a home church since then, really. I tried, and then I learned it was just there was a reason. Just my soul wasn't being fed, and it was part of a program I just couldn't get with anymore, and that's just what it was. And now here I am, creating content to speak truth, because I'm not afraid to live in my truth, and being a truth speaker really sucks sometimes, and I've pissed off the Illuminati a few times, but ultimately, there's a certain line of respect in there, because at some point I reincarnated and I was part of that, but I wasn't the bad part of that. I was well, they didn't like me then either, so that's just what I got, through the intuitive downloads of one of my past lives, but during my meditation and stuff. But it was they got a little pissed at me this time around, but they understand. They know that eventually there's a time that truth has to be spoken, and they have their way of doing it, and then I have my very direct way of doing it. So there's that. But as far as healing, this was just all like very interesting how this all unfolded this morning. And I mean, it really all started with me just changing my doggone shirt. And ironically, the shirt covering, there's like my root, my base, but the shirt covers everything from my sacral to my, solar, to my heart, to my throat, to my, to my third eye, and to my crown, so funny enough that people would ask me, and I'd always forget, the order of what one was the sacral or the solar plexus that came after the root. And today I really remembered and learned, and it's, easy to remember because it's literally the colors of the rainbow. But I also wasn't the kid that remembered that either. I didn't pass that in class. There's sometimes the simple things, probably because the harder things were what I was meant to really, put out. But I just couldn't get with that program, I guess. But it was pretty sad. But it is what it is. Yeah, so when it comes to energy, there's this example of somebody I know where her biological father had reincarnated as a soul, and a lot of this leads into like Caesar, the time of Caesar, the Ides of March. Let me see if I put this on my notes here. So I'm gonna post pictures of like these note cards that I took down earlier, but ultimately the main chakra, because I'm wearing the orange shirt, the healing's for the sacral. So the sacral is like our emotions. So I wrote, emotional damage, ED, deep, SED, so said, seed, spell, feminine, masculine, Pride Month, June, Gemini, Roman numeral 2, PR equals public relations, IDE, Ides of March, marching, left to right, RN, Book of Romans plus the Book of Numbers, Roman numerals, assigned to family, bloodlines in the Holy Bible, servants to fulfill prophecies, war gods, military forces, and then the energy of deceit or energy deceitful, ED, deep, and then 777. So that's where it all started. Is in the Book of Numbers there was a lot of I was going to read some of it, but ultimately in the beginning of it's very much lined out where it's, the war god, you know, and this is where that masculine war energy started, and this is an energy that's been going on for ever since that was written in there, and people were assigned a number, and in the military we are assigned a number, and we are given a dog tag with our social security number. We have our ID number. We have all these numbers, um, you know, given to us in the military, and then we also have our civilian numbers. So we're really tied into, this type of energy. And it, when you look at how the military didn't accept, LGBTQ, it literally played out a part of the prophecy of where society wasn't accepting it, and in the military, the one of the very few times they did a leadership thing for the whole collective and not just, in a inclusive way, without being sneaky and deceitful. They were letting in LGBTQ, plus, but it was like, it's the jokes have always, existed within the infantry units, and I was in some of those as well. So it's like the jokes were always there, but to me, being the way I am, I just didn't think those jokes were very funny. I tried to play along, I just couldn't. I couldn't. It felt weird. But when you read the Book of Numbers, it's literally that is a very hidden in plain sight message about, those were some of the original bloodlines that they're talking about that get assigned numbers in the way that they do this. And women, we don't wage war, but because of over time we've come into this energy of we caught the energy, and I don't believe in women down talking each other and being bullies, and we have too much in us to be doing crap like that, to be hateful and deceitful and bullying each other. Like, it's just, there's too much in us that God put in us to be doing that crap. And so and the sad part is that there's women in politics, and it one of the responsibilities of the woman is to be involved in politics, but they may have some ways they do things, but when they get on and show their face to the world or whatever, whoever's watching, and it's just a very masculine narrative, it really just hurts my heart. But I don't watch a lot of TV anymore just because I couldn't see some of that. I don't even watch the news really because it's just ridiculous. But when I see that, it's like, it took a lot for women to start getting into politics, and then it's like once they got to those roles, there was there were certain stigmas, like, oh, she's in politics, she's a lesbian. That was a stigma at one point. And then there was what was the other one? They kind of just fell more into like the masculine narrative, but I'm like, but they also didn't know, just like I didn't know, that we're women, we're the law, and the men are the instructors. So but not like in a bad manipulative way. Like, there's a certain tactfulness and gracefulness about it. But yeah, the church doesn't ever tell you, and this is like the loaded part when it comes to the sacral chakra, because it's the wheel, that's what chakra stands for. So the emotional damage, and then you think about, people that are, quote, gay or, LGBTQ, you people just see him for being gay. I mean, there was a point, I think, somebody once called me a cross-dresser, and then I associated that with prostitution, because that's just what it was associated with back in the day when it was said the way it was said. But I didn't really know what that meant, because I just don't give two craps about a lot of the other narratives. They're not my program. So but you know I was kind of a little hurt in the feels for that one, but no one ever asked. Well, someone eventually asked later on, like recently in the last 5 years. Someone asked me the questions about why am I a lesbian, and then I kind of told some of the reason why, but it was just mainly because a lot of it I didn't know why. And now today I have a better understanding of why. But whenever the book of Numbers and people got labeled to be servants and essentially slaves of war, that energy has played out throughout history, and now we're trying to stop all that. And so that's why a lot of us are coming, like the prophecy, a lot of us are waking up and the prophecies are being fulfilled, but we have to speak truth into the prophecies. And however way we do it, it's just as long as the truth gets out there. And so this is a lot easier to write down than it is to talk about, but I guess that's how my journaling started when I was younger and a lesbian, but I didn't quite claim that. But it was a lot easier written down than it was able to say it out loud. But now it's like, the dynamic's a little different, but it's this was really loaded for me, because when I got the download, it wasn't just about being gay or LGBTQ plus. It was, it had a lot to do with slavery, had a lot to do with being a servant, but society mistaking that, and other uneducated, unenlightened masculine energy leaders that have distorted the energy, because they didn't have the woman leading them. And even though that said that behind every great man is a great woman, that's true. And there's also some truth about, there's a profound man behind that woman, but like, who was the mother of that man? And you have to think about all these things. And so that's why this is kind of hard for me to get out, because every society, or at least American society, us being a first world country, I think it's a lot of BS that every single one of us should know how to be a leader, because we have more resources than the third world countries. And so instead of running around like a bunch of spoiled rich kids, it's using the resources. But then I also know that there are people with pockets that very deep pockets that just they abuse the resources, and it's really messed up as far as the economics go, and human resources go, which is why I specialize in what I do, is because people and our souls especially are our greatest resource to their future. Our souls waking up is that best resource. And so that's a part of this message is, you know, when you come out of the closet, you know, there's a, you know, a certain way, you know, I ain't telling you how to live your life, but there's just a certain way that you should, you know, I advise that you go about it, but this has a lot to do with like the throat chakra. Ultimately, this is the whole chakras. So I was gonna do, you know, just 2 or 3 of them, but then it just led to me doing, you know, all 7 of them, like the colors of the rainbow, you know. But the throat chakra, you know, it's a, you know, speak your truth, you know, effectively, and then, you know, make being LGBTQ plus, you know, make it make sense, you know, for quantum sensing and purposes, and, you know, the truth, you know, the 10 toes down between 10 and 2, you know, but like make it, you know, the truth be known for a reason, you know, not just not just be like, oh yeah, you're like, I'm gay, because like that was something I didn't really fall into when I came out. Like I tried, and I did, like, obviously within, you know, the same company, but there's still just like a certain aspect, or many aspects of it where, you know, I didn't ever feel like I had to flaunt it. Like I tried, I had people around me try to influence me, really flaunting it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, and you have every right to live your life the way you want to live your life, and but my main thing is like I just want the LGBTQ plus community to understand the purpose of why, because sometimes I see those videos, shorts of that lady Candace and somebody in the LGBTQ plus community in some town hall saying crazy, outlandish bullshit that I'm like, but do you know? And so this is like this, you're gonna know now, and a lot of it had to do with, you know, the book of Numbers, your bloodline being cursed, and the book of Numbers did that for every single bloodline. Some of them worked through it, some of them didn't. But you know, I worked through mine, and not just this lifetime, but many of them. But you know, there's just a lot of parents don't understand that, and I needed to go back to the thing about that individual, and, you know, her birth father, you know, the mother let her know about, you know, her dad having, you know, some gay tendencies, and, you know, that father was supposed to live in his truth, but that father was also spiritual, and so you would have thought, I mean, I'm not them, but this is just, you know, something that was shared with me, that, you know, you would have thought that having the father being spiritual and all that, whenever his daughter was born, she was a firstborn, and I kind of resonate because I was also firstborn, and I seem to know a lot of people that were either only children or firstborns. It's usually the vibes that and the people I sort of attract. But that that female, that woman, she didn't know that about her father at first, and when she found out, it made sense to her why she became a lesbian, or why she was embodying the energy of being a lesbian, because a lot of it's all an energy, and more people look at it like a title, but it's more of an energy, because of what happened to the people in the Bible, who were caught doing that stuff, or being in a they call a homosexual relationship, but when you think of the word homo, it means it's like homo sapien, homo homozygous. You want to get in like really sciencey, but very individualized, one. And so but being gay, we embody, we have we've played out the energies of both masculine and female energies, and so that is something that I want the collective to understand more, is that you're not just that title, you're an energy playing out a prophecy, that was written and spelled into your life, into your soul's life, long before your flesh suit needed to come about. And it keeps happening, and the more that the prophecy isn't fulfilled, or the more that people are not understanding, or the more that the less compassion and kindness and unconditional loving, like the more that was happening over time. It's like, okay, well, you don't, society, people, humans, you don't want to learn, to have a Jesus heart and be unconditionally loving and compassionate. You want to keep on doing it, so it gets worse and worse every cycle. But it's like, me being able to read timelines and energies and stuff, it wasn't just the book of Romans. It mentions it a couple times, different books, but, I'm trying not to really note that, because it's something that I feel every individual should be able to go in and look at, but it's still just, I don't want to respell it, I'm just giving you like the clip notes where to find it, and or that it's there and I've seen it, but like, that you have to go in your own self-discovery, and that's not me trying to push people to read the Bible and all that. It's like me just saying, like, this is the storyline, because the Bible is a book of spells, just like all the other books of faith are books of spells, and they've been cycling out and spelling all those energies back into reality for other individuals, in energy and thoughts that like, yeah, a book of faith is a guidebook, but it is not a live your life like this, because we don't live in that what is written in there. I can see the future writing and the hidden stuff of it, but what's written in there from the past, we don't live in those times anymore, because we're supposed to exist and evolve. And so, the churches, they don't necessarily, you know, teach a lot of evolution because it's in science. These are all those matrix information traps that have happened that just keep people stuck and in lack. And it's like, we're all divine beings. We have souls, for the most part. Most of us do. And there's some that don't, but there's certain things they have to do, and certain individuals they have to come across in order to, get assigned a soul, to have that awakening, because this stuff can happen, and this stuff does happen for real time. It's very interesting how it works out, but it happens. But yeah, so that woman's birth father hid that, but ultimately the intuitive mother exposed him to, his daughter, and but she didn't ever bring it up. From what she told me, she just said that she took note and moved on. But she got the truth, and then it made sense, because he in some way reincarnated through somewhat of a the physical male Caesar, and whatever was going around in that time of Romans. But it's significant, but I think Caesar was very out about his sexuality, his sexual energies, and exercising those, with other men and stuff like that. But I guess in some way, the way that I've seen it and the way it played out when she was telling me, is that he was supposed to still have love and compassion for his daughter that came out as also a lesbian, but he didn't. He shunned and shamed her tremendously, and made a spectacle, of her trying to be brave and courageous, and speak truth, and ultimately, she just got, I guess, pissed off, and started throwing Hail Marys, I guess. But a lot like myself, and like Valerie Means, she also cut off talking to her family that she was born into. She just didn't. It's like, it's a thing. This is a thing. I've seen it through social media as well. Just people were just tired of being attached to a bloodline they don't want to heal, and if you ain't healing, you don't get to roll. You don't get to come where we're going. Like, it's just, you have to do the work, and work is looking different than it used to, and it's just, it's a divine God thing. It ain't, it's an energy, and it has to be worked out, and we're over here trying to fulfill and speak truth to prophecies so we can end this, crap, and, create new life, and, have our heaven on earth, because we all deserve it, and it's a long bloodline of things, but we've gotten really good at it, but yeah, so when she was telling me that, but because he wasn't being compassionate towards her, and he, I guess before that, he also didn't have compassion for others that were like that, and he'd speak against them, but he ultimately he would bully homosexuals, but like a gay hater club or something, I think is what she told me, and that's kind of weird to find that out, but but because of that level of lack of compassion that her birth father was showing towards homosexuals, but he himself had those tendencies, and it's like it was a mirror curse, um, and so which is why souls reincarnate, is pretty much, you know, put death to these mirror curses, you know, that the books of faith have been speaking out and into a lot of our lives, you know, since it was written, you know, but it doesn't have to be. We can sing a new song, we can write a new book, but or don't, you know, just let it flow. Be progressive, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I just thought it was really sad that she went through all that, because my story was somewhat similar, but yeah, it was really sad, you know. And then, but because before she was born, there were just some things, you know, obviously that he was doing and saying, you know, about, you know, LGBTQ individuals, and just the not living in his truth, and the lack of compassion and unconditional love, and you know, all these things. You know, she realized that she was born, and you know, a lot like myself, I had to start asking myself my own questions. You know, why did I have to be a lesbian? Like, why couldn't it just go away? You know, when I'd pray, and I kept trying to, I wanted it to go away, and it just wouldn't. And I had to learn, you know, to love myself. And so whenever she was telling me this story, you know, about how she was the firstborn, and she, you know, ended up being a lesbian, and she found out it was due to her birth father, and his lack of compassion and understanding, and all those, like all those things, you know, and which made it very difficult for her to look up to him. And I was like, and I kind of resonated with that, because I had something kind of similar, but there's a pattern there, because it taught me that, you know, hearing her testimony, it taught me that, you know, for other ones that are LGBTQ, you know, there was probably a point in your bloodline or your parents that, you know, their souls reincarnated because they needed to learn to have unconditional love for something that was different from them. And so that was a prophecy that they were supposed to fulfill as your parents. And, you know, if they didn't, obviously, you know, God does what God does, whether you believe in a God or a higher power. But regardless, the universe and the higher powers will, the energies, because everything is energy, and that's more of the narrative we're trying to get into, but I'd rather explain it like that, just because it's easier for me. But I have to speak truth to what it is, you know, on the 3D level, and like a 2D level, and all the other levels other than the 5D, and it just kind of sucks sometimes. But and then having to mash them together and make it make sense. But yeah, so if your parents weren't compassionate towards you, you know, lacked understanding and understanding for, you know, UI, user interface, because we are in the digital age, which is significant to numbers, but now we're in the digital age. We get to make our own damn numbers, our own code, not the book of numbers, and that's what the digital age is doing. It's fulfilling, saying it like that is fulfilling, a prophecy of the numbers, trying to assign people to a number. It still happens, but we get to choose our algorithm versus the algorithm that the books of faith were trying to put into us, or speak into our lives, because it's already written. Yeah, no, not all the time. It's not. It's you get to choose. You get to, but some of us have fate, obviously, and destinies and things like the twin flames. That's still. Yeah. Anyway, so if any of you ever wondered, why you feel the way you do, and then why you were the way you were, and why you didn't get the compassion, the unconditional love, and the kindness, love unconditionally, compassion and kindness. As an acronym, that's LUCK, LUCK, and if you didn't get that, that's why. Your parents were supposed to. That was a generational curse. They were supposed to give you unconditional love, compassion, and kindness, and all the things, and just treat you like you belonged. And if they didn't, or if there was even like the undertone of it, and sadly, even if there are the more progressive parents that were very accepting of, those that came out, even having a slight undertone in the spirit of, they're just trying to showboat to make it seem like it's okay, but they're really not okay with it, but they're trying, and like there's like that trying, but there's still like it has to be a full thing. But like your parents didn't know, what they were supposed to be doing. And so I don't know if any of y'all out there have had, if you're talking to your parents, you don't talk to your parents, or if you really want to, just know that is the narrative that's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be, obviously, they know you're out now, but if you need to go back and you have this inner thing where you feel like you need to just speak truth into it, don't throw it in their face, because you do not be spiteful, and do not throw it in their face, but just be loving unconditionally, compassionate and kind with them, and explain to them, in the spirit, that there are, you can even use this video. I mean, I don't know how long they'll sit through it, but they were supposed to, give you that. And if they didn't, obviously, because you're already out, you're already shunned, you're already made a spectacle of. And that's why I don't get into Pride Month and go out, and I tried a couple times, but it's just I have certain disciplines, and so I can't be out there just getting all, making a spectacle of myself. Like, yes, or is it celebrated? Yes. Is it being accepted? Yes. And that's all beautiful. It really is. But for myself, it's not something meant for me to just be flaunting, just because it just wasn't part of my journey to do that. I went, attended, gained empathy, and then didn't ever go back, you know. Um, and like, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's very beautiful that there's parades and now there's a whole month. I didn't even know it was a whole month. I thought it was like a week in the month of June that this is celebrated. Like that's how unorthodox I am. Um, but yeah, so today I realized that, but um, it's probably just a part of my discipline. I don't I'm proud of who I am, and if someone wants to know, I'll speak wisdom into the situation. But I just have a lot of issues with how the LGBTQ, you are so much more than the stigma. And as someone in a divine mother energy, and very soon, I'm going to take on, being a mother, to physical, beings, that are, I guess you say, kind of like I adopt, like I'm probably end up, it's going to be an adoption kind of situation, but I don't really know if I want to put it on paper if I need to, but but because of that though, it's like, being in that energy and just being a woman already and embodying the womb, a lot of my messages are just, they're really meant to heal, because that is a responsibility for me, and as a woman, and they're meant, like, I try to speak to the collective as I would have wanted others to speak to me when I had questions, but yet no one had answers. And I realized at some point in my younger teenage years that I just wasn't going to get any answers from anybody. I had to find them myself. So I was independent in a lot of those ways, just self-exploring and finding those answers for myself, because no one else can tell me that. And I realized, how blessed I was for that, and how grateful. But there was just times where, like, sometimes I just needed that external, I don't want to say validation, but that's just what it was. But it was just like a certain thing. Sometimes I needed the answer. But I always ended up finding it. Spirit's always provided it for me. But it makes life feel lonely, and I didn't. It's kind of like people that are rich and famous. They got all the money, but they don't have all the love. And I didn't grow up with a lot of money, but I've been very rich and abundant and wealthy, spiritually. Ooh, that hit the feels. I'm grateful for that, but I just want the LGBTQ community to know that there are certain responsibilities you have to the energy, and this is me speaking, as a divine mother, is that one is 2024, so if you need to come out, but you don't have to come out and be like everybody else. And if you haven't come out yet, but it's on your mind, you don't have to tell everybody, and everyone kind of already knew about me. that's just what it was. But they knew before I knew, and that's always seems to be the case. It's like out of all the things someone can read about somebody, that is always one in the pattern throughout the life cycles, that they always know before you know, but you really know because you're already putting out that energy. But goodness forbid they try to read a different kind of energy from you. But the gay one has always been the hey, and it's because it reflects out to them. It reflects a part of them, and it's not that they're perhaps gay. It's that we're LGBTQ plus. It's because they're it's because they need to know the truth of them being both masculine and feminine energies, and then exercising those energies out and teaching those energies within themselves. And so that was something else that would happen, is when people would come across gay people. And this is something I experienced a lot, because I know I'm not the only one, but some of the lesbians I know, some of them, it was like I myself try to stay closeted, and but ultimately I always ended up being with a female that was a straight woman, or portrayed to be a straight woman, but there was something inside of her that needed to play out. And then it was like, there would we would kind of date, I guess, or something, because when you're like that and you find one, like, some people just get stuck, not just lesbians, just like any LGBTQ plus relationships, like, because you found like someone you belonged, someone made you feel like you belong, so you just stay with the one and you don't go any farther than that. And so when it come to my twin, like, I didn't expect that. I didn't even like, the energy came through, but I didn't try to allow it to take over the situation, because I really just wanted to be friends. And then over time I realized it was and being in a twin flame relationship is kind of, really, in connection, is really a, put more truth into why the LGBTQ exists, and it's all energy. And but when I started finding out things about my twin flame, and her inner battles with that, even though I feel like she wouldn't have an issue playing that one out, but like myself, I went through a contingency list, because I wanted to make sure I was being responsible, and because I knew that as soon as I came out, I was going to be shunned. I wouldn't be able to see, a lot of my family members. They wouldn't want me to be around. They thought my gay energy would rub off on them, or they didn't say energy, but they didn't want my gayness to rub off. But now I understand that. I understand it as, like, it was an energy, but coming from very leadership mindset, kind of already inherited leadership abilities in my bloodline, that's not an issue. But we're all very much our own individual, but we all we're pretty much INFJs, and that was kind of weird. We all tested to see, and it was that we all were that, and that's kind of crazy to have it all in one family, because it's a very rare personality type. But yeah, so when it came to, my twin, there was someone else around where I was trying to protect them from, I don't want to say the gay bug, but there was just someone being very predatory towards somebody who was a very who's also Christian, that very hard in her faith. Like, her Facebook posts were all about going to church and all these things, and it was all great, and and I could feel that energy on her. Like, it was very beautiful energy. But there was someone else who I've known for years that and I didn't like doing this because it just felt weird to me, but it was something that I used to do as a teenager. But it's like I had to play two sides of it, but at the same time, ultimately, I over time I figured out how to strategize and to veer, that off. Because I'm like, I mean, if you're a female that that ever tried to come towards me, and you're straight and all that, like, and especially if you're intoxicated, I'm like, that didn't get to freaking happen. But because I saw other individuals that were LGBTQ, and they get drunk, and the straight person get drunk, and then they go and they do dumb stuff, and then they wake up and then weird stuff. Like, there was no need for that. So, like, it just wasn't. I didn't have that agenda, but I saw it play out so many times. I was like, that's disgusting to me. It it pissed me off, and I was like, there's a certain code, and that wasn't the code. And I felt that was very malicious and deceitful, even though a lot of times a straight person just needed to have that excuse to do that, and it happened so they can learn and whatever. But it was still just, I didn't like that, so I just wasn't about it. But this woman that was that's a Christian, this other individual I knew for years, she was trying to, she wanted that Christian woman to be gay, and it hurt me, but mine was to protect, and I don't, like I said, I don't like doing the two-sided stuff, but my role in the situation that I got from Spirit was to protect that individual. So, because the narrative was shared with me, and I don't know how many individuals that that woman I knew, or lady that I knew that for years, I don't know how many people she told about, the way that she said it to me, but it was just very predatory, and being a Christian and going through what I went through when I was younger, even though I had a lot of understanding, but I was like, because I had been given grace by others, because I could have been shunned right away, because it was not during the years, it was like the early 2000s, it was not during the time you want to be asking them kind of questions, especially on the church bus going somewhere. I'm just saying. So and everyone can hear you, but I was given grace. There was an angel there that day. And so when it came to being presented with this situation years later, I remembered the grace I was given. But that was my time to be the angel for that individual. And so I was slowly trying to help, flip that lady's narrative for the one that she was trying to get at, and so that was pretty hard and very sad for me. But I was trying to. I didn't want to bring it up to the person that I was supposed to be, that I was protecting. Not supposed to. I protected her as much as I could until I was removed from the situation, and I couldn't do that any longer. But if her truth came out the way it needed to come out, it came out. But at the same time, there was a couple different dimensions playing out there, like time traveling in a way. But she I did what I could, and then I was removed from the situation. So that just let me know that I didn't feel any regret or remorse or grieve the situation. I just was like, I hope that just stopped. But ultimately, my goal was to get the narrative flipped, and let that the woman that was being, I guess that someone kind of stalked, but they worked together very well, so it was just very weird, because it was a professional setting. But ultimately I just was trying to get kind of in the mind of, I was already in the mind of that individual as a Christian, so, and in the heart of being a Christian, very literally. But I wanted, I was gonna tell her, like, and start asking kind of those questions, so that I knew how to adjust the narrative for the individual that was, preying on her, not in the good prayer way either. So, but ultimately, I just wanted to tell her, like, you're not gay, and I wanted to tell her it could have been an energy, but I just wanted mainly to let her know, like, you're not gay, so I could speak that truth into her. So the other one, the other lady that I knew for years, well over a decade, didn't, she would just kind of give up, and because it was out of I didn't want that Christian woman to become a void filler, for that the lady I knew for years, because that lady I knew for years was going through a divorce, and I knew that individual's spouse, before. Yeah, I kind of knew him around the same time, but the fact that they met, there was another situation, but there's an energy that was with that situation, how they met and why they got married and all that. And it was a void filling, and then that's when I realized that this person's probably just about to fill in a void, and I don't want this nice Christian woman, that lives in a very, she gave off the lesbian vibes, but the stigma of them, which is like, the go-getters. I'm like, anyone can do that, and it's just a stigma that was given to lesbians for some reason. But we're not all like that. I mean, like, it's a leadership thing for us, and so, like, she was a leader, and so it was like, whenever she when that started happening, I just didn't want her to become a victim of the void, for someone else to, use and abuse her, and so that was kind of the situation that happened before I realized, whom I, this person I was trying to be friends with, like very genuinely, like, that I found out, over time that we were more than just friends. We were, twin flames. And so, when it comes to quantum entanglement, I just didn't know, I didn't expect, my twin to have, to have the, LGBTQ energy, but she definitely tried to signal that she has it, but I caught it once, and I spoke with another individual that 120 as I said that, that I also, on some timeline, she was also, a lesbian, and I think it's just because I was more in shock, because I just got done trying to protect this other individual that I'm like, that you're not gay. But when my twin came through and was throwing out signals, I really tried to ignore them, because I was still in that energy of, this before I learned how to kind of cord cut, but I was already cord cutting quickly with energies, but it was like there's some that just kind of lingered. But that one was a little quicker than I even expected, but it was like I was still trying to get over that protector energy so I can reset and handle that, because I was like, we're just friends, lady, we're not I just don't know what you're trying to do here. But luckily, it wasn't like a, I'm grateful it wasn't a drunk situation, but nothing would have happened anyways. It was like, you can go to freaking sleep, like that, put your demons to bed. Like, that's probably what wouldn't have happened. But it was just like, I just didn't know, it was weird. It was like a reset. Cause, it wasn't like I hadn't not had situations like that with friends before, but it was just this particular one that I didn't want that to happen with. And because it was just unexpected, but that was before I knew that she's my twin. And I feel like there's a lot of us in the LGBTQ community, because it's a cycle, it's a pattern, that we get those things that come across where we're like, we're not drunk. So, if we're not in a drunk situation, because, things happen, you drink spirits come through. It's a thing. No one says it, but that is what it is. Wine and spirits, they call it that for a daggone reason. And they literally do that on purpose in the Bible to get into that. And it's also a Native American thing, and all these things, and indigenous people aren't all Indian, so just take note of that. But so if you're out there trying to figure out just be sober in your decisions, because you just don't ever know what kind of energy you'll take on when you get into that. And even though I know now it's very fluid, but at the same time I know there's certain communities where you just can't, or I don't want to say can't, but you just feel like you can't, be in your truth. And I feel like that's something that my own twin struggles with, or was struggling with. I feel like she's been able to adjust with that, but you know, it's like, a lot of this message was mainly just, you know, to heal and honor her in a way, and, you know, in the collective as well, because, you know, my parents, and like, because I know, but my parents, they didn't have answers for me, and I went through some level of emotional damage. You know, my sacral chakra took a really big hit. You know, but my solar plexus, more masculine energy, you know, it didn't, it was my decisive action, and I was very healthy in that, you know, during that time when I came out, but, because I was like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do regardless, so I was living in my truth there, which I didn't, you know, there's so much that happens on the quantum level and in energy entanglements that I wish I could just explain it all out, because it's like the things that go through my mind, and the things that I write down, it always doesn't come out exactly the way, and I just let spirit kind of guide it. And so then, but you know, I was very decisive in my actions, and I was like, well, worst case scenario, like I said, I had to go through the contingencies, and I was like, I already knew what was going to come of it when I came out. You know, I feel that my twins already sort of done that, or people that knew about her, and they didn't have an issue with it. It was just, she just wasn't, you know, super out and proud and out like that, you know, and, you know, I just wanted her to know that, I get it. Like, I really get it, and I really understand, you know, and understand more why, you know, we are, twin flames, because obviously I have a, you know, way of putting things, and, putting truth to things, and, you know, I understand you had a period of going through your contingencies of how you're going to play that out, because we're twins, and there's times where, you know, you got an energy that I already dealt with, but that's how I dealt with it. I went through my contingencies, took note, and then whoever didn't, you know, didn't want to, you know, be a part of my life, because and show me unconditional love, you know, for, you know, being a lesbian and everything. They didn't exist in my life for a very long time, and because it, you know, I lead with my heart, and I'm an empath, and, you know, my own bloodline, mainly, you know, also my birth father, in spiritual warfare, specifically in terms like that, he tried to, he hit me in the sacral, you know, in the sacral chakra, and, you know, that's that sun energy, that's, you know, it's enlightenment, my illumination. Like, even though, yeah, it hurt me emotionally, but at the same time, I didn't ruminate on it. I was just like, well, because I already took the contingencies. I was already, you know, knew, like, hey, this is gonna happen. It's like, I didn't want it to happen, but I already knew, you know, my parents' agenda, and, you know, and I didn't hate them for it, and, you know, I was like, this is just what it is. I just chalked it all up to, well, that's just the rules, you know, of their household, whatever, and that's just what it is. And so just what I had to do. But that was just my mindset, though. It was a very mature mindset, at a very young age. And like, I know that a lot of LGBTQ individuals don't go through that, and they're just, it's kind of like, this is what happened. And I know it's not so much of a thing now, but I know it still kind of exists there. But I know that the ones that were my, generation and before that, it's just your parents, they were supposed to fulfill a prophecy, and it wasn't them, it was their demons and the curse that was put on them. And it, was not completely their fault. They made choices, yes, but when it comes to spiritual warfare, the LGBTQ community has a very great purpose and part, as far as, energy healing, and spiritual warfare, which is what we're all going through right now. And so when this is why I've been so disciplined. And, today was when I realized why. And it was, it's been because being LGBTQ isn't just about being in your truth. It's also about being a leader and energy healing. And so, I know there's quite a decent amount of us that go and we're Reiki healers, but we don't claim it, or we don't know it about ourselves yet. And I just want, the LGBTQ plus community to know, like, because you've taken on that energy, you are a healer. And now is the time where you're being called to fulfill these prophecies. And so instead of being out there doing these town hall, YouTube, TikTok, look at me and what I'm doing, things, like, yeah, there are some of us that get on there and we have to speak a truth, but just don't embarrass yourself. And like I know that sounds really kind of ridiculous, because that was how some of our parents were, where they're like, that's an embarrassment. I mean, mine were straight up like, that's an embarrassment. And they're like, don't be telling nobody. Like, my mother is more understanding, but like my friend, it was almost kind of the same with my birth father. Like, you're an abomination. You're an embarrassment. You're going to hell. You're gonna burn in hell. Well, little did he know that we live in a war god world, and if you look at it that way, yeah. But in the spiritual level, yeah, Earth is like hell, but doesn't have to be. And so that's why we're switching, and moving more to heaven on earth, and that's why I do and say the things I say. And sometimes it doesn't always go in order, and that's just energy. Energy doesn't always go in order. I mean, it does, but it doesn't, because quantum entanglement, and you can cut all the cords you want, but it's just like cyber security, there's energy security, and that's not quite a thing yet, but I'm gonna definitely establish a thing for that. But there's just there are just ways where I just, I don't look at LGBTQ as an abomination or embarrassment. I just, I see our light and the responsibilities whether you're male or female in that, because if you're male already, like, you're already living out a feminine energy, like, and so that's why it's like very important, because I have to speak truth into it. And it's like, if you're out there being, you know, extra, it's like you're so much more than, because society and the stigma wants you to be a flamboyant, out there, you know, male, and to be a spectacle, and you're not. You're not a spectacle for others, and spectacles are glasses. You do not represent someone else's reality, and that is the thing, you know, the things that I need you to understand is you're not what they want you to be. Like, you need to take control and ownership, and not just do it more internally. Live in your power that you have for being a healer. Don't be an external spectacle. And so when it, you know, it's a lot like, you know, the lesbians back in, way back in the day with their nautical stars. It's like they kept those stars hidden. They kept their light hidden. And for those that understand how this all ties together, you know, it was almost like a secret society in a way. Like, you moved in silence, and you know, that's where that closet aspect of LGBTQ plus comes in. Is, yes, for most of our lives we move in silence, you know, but I know in my twin flame dynamic, the example here is that you know, I came out, but I wasn't like, hey, look at me. I tried it just to gain empathy, but it just wasn't for me. It was like a one and done. Like, I just didn't want to go parading around, because I knew there was something deeper, but I just didn't quite know then. And like I said, like today, a lot of profound, you know, truths came out, you know, and an abundance of information and stuff that, like, yeah, when it comes to my twin, like, I know that, you know, she moves in silence, and with hers, and she's not out there, and you know, I know that it took a level of courage and bravery for her to even, you know, send out the signs like that. But like I said, you know, I was just trying to be friends, you know, with no strings attached, and keep it professional. And I guess there was just, you know, obviously there was more there than I knew. And so when I pushed my twin away, you know, obviously there's a lot of reasons behind it, but, you know, I know that she knew deeper reasons, but there was a masculine energy about her, you know, within the solar plexus probably, where she struggled with decisive action, but she still would do it. When she did it, she just didn't know how to handle it. And then me being a divine being, and my twin being, you know, a Christian witch, it's like the whole looking up to the divine being thing. It's like when they try to come at us, you know, it can be different, it can be weird, but you know, I've also experienced that because of the way that I portrayed my twin as a divine being, you know. So when I would pursue and move in silence and pursue, there was you know, I would catch that energy back, because I was giving it, and that's how I knew that she was catching it. But I mean, I ultimately see my twin, you know, I still do, as, you know, as one of my angels, but at the same time, you know, she doesn't want to claim that, and I respect that, you know, and I honor that about, you know, her, and she wants to live in that truth of herself, and, you know, it works for our dynamic. But it's just, you know, seen her light, and I see, it took me a while to understand, how our dynamic would work as far as the LGBTQ, situation. I don't want to call it like the situation, but knowing that, like, obviously I know that about myself, but like I said, I'm very conservative. It's almost like I'm so balanced in the way that in my energy with that, like, there's times where, the way that I've said things to people makes me question, like, well, is she actually really gay? Or I'm like, or lesbian, and because that's how balanced I am in that energy. And so it confuses people, but it's like, I tried to, like I said, I do my contingencies, and I knew when I knew, and that's just what it was. But ultimately, there's a lot of things about my twin flame and I, and that, really, like, when you're LGBTQ plus, like, that is almost a little bit, or a lot like living out, it is a twin flame journey, but it's like the self journey energy more, unless you're just, like, I can't tell you, like, I could just give the examples of what I know, but it's because you had to go through the process with your emotions, and so, like, you're already differentiating and playing out energies between your masculine and your feminine energies. And that wasn't explained to me that way, and I don't know if anyone's parents out there have ever explained it, the ones that are more progressive and know things of things, but instead of just accepting you, there's, that acceptance is always great. Belonging is always great when it's very genuine, without a hidden agenda. But there's also, I'm myself personally, like, when I don't like there to be any confusion when I accept somebody. Like, I have had my issues with gay men, just because, it's just like, I just seen something different in them than what they were letting society lead them to believe that they needed to be, and they would do it to an extreme. And I was like, it's already hard enough being, LGBTQ plus, that, you just, there's so much people put on that stigma, and that's why I removed myself from the situation. I wouldn't, allow myself to play in that energy and have my soul projected, and sort of spiritual contracts being made with those that do not care about their energies, and they don't have discipline. They're just out there saying dumb crap to speak things into people's existence. So I didn't allow myself to really be all up in that situation. Like, I was, but I wasn't, and then I removed myself from the situation, even though my ex would probably like to take credit for some of that. But there's a lot of things where I was already removing myself before any of that ever happened, because it just I outgrew it. And, like, when I outgrow something, I naturally move away from it. It's just always done that. It's not hard. It's a little emotional, but ultimately it's just not hard. And so yeah, there's just a lot of responsibilities that we have in respect to the energies of that, because we're not just gay and all that. We're, you know, we're not just an acronym or a set of titles. We're, you know, the divine, you know, sent a lot of us to fulfill prophecies of, you know, stuff written in books of faith that were, you know, those things kept us away. I continued, you know, my faith because, you know, that's how I was meant to do it. But I know that there was a lot that, you know, got pushed away. And that was one thing that really, like I said, you know, God and I have always had an understanding, and an understanding, because I was made in God's image. But, you know, you got to think of like what one, and mine has always been a very loving and unconditionally loving God. But because of the God that my family members were programmed, you know, to live in the fear of God, and there's others around me that had that, but for the most part, my experience and the people that I would always attract were the ones that knew God to be unconditionally loving, and the one that sent Jesus to heal, like that specific God, and that mindset. And that's all I've ever known. And I have said that I feared God, but I honestly don't even think that was my narrative. I think it was somebody else in my energy, because I haven't ever had a big fear of God, because there's no reason to, because I know my intentions are always good. I lead with my heart, and I don't wish ill, and I don't hate anybody, and I have, like, you know, I'm just not, I'm unworldly, I'm not of this world. And so, you know, that has always just been me. And so, you know, I had to learn to love myself for that. You know, and because, you know, I find it very ironic that my friend, her birth father, you know, didn't know how to love himself and being spiritual, and that's almost way worse. But, you know, I didn't pay their bills. I wasn't even born yet, but you know, her, just the facts of her situation, you know, it was just extra. But I see the beauty in her story, and so I just found it ironic that, you know, her father didn't know how to love himself, or maybe he just didn't want to, you know, attempt to heal or further his understanding in his truth, and to find out it was just energies. But because he fought, you know, his urges, or his you know, guidance, or having to play out the energies, and I guess he couldn't get it wrapped around his head, but he still would do that, or you know, whatever, you know, well, you know, he was blessed with his first born being gay, and then she had to work through that, and then know that her, you know, parents couldn't love her. And you know, she told me that her dad, her birth father, straight up told her, I can't love you because you're gay and you're going to hell. And I was like, who says that to their child? But it happened. And I was like, I was in tears because that's sad. I mean, at least he was honest, but still, that is the man of that no spirituality couldn't figure out another way, you know, to be. But even though he spoke a lie, that's all he knew. So she told me how she had to go through the process of, you know, even though he wasn't unconditionally loving, she chose to be unconditionally loving. And so the fact that I came across, you know, this woman, and she told me that, it was like, obviously, like, I attract my tribe with my vibe. And so yeah, it put a lot of, you know, it made me understand, like, when I was younger and I would ask God to take that away from me, because I didn't want to be that, because it was always shunned, you know. But I was given so much grace as a you know, as a child, you know, dealing with those questions. And you know, I had angels amongst me that were protecting me when I had to ask those questions externally. And I remember that being very, you know, scary for me. But because I didn't know, but I felt the protection of me and that other individual that was there, that was kind of like my mentor, you know. But I also, even though I was young, you know, I have an ancient soul, so I was dropping truth bombs and wisdom bombs, you know, that she was just, you know, enlightened with. But I was, you know, enlightened with hers too, but she usually just let me do a lot of the talking. But it was just like, I'm grateful, though, that she was able to embody the angelic energy I needed to get those out, because otherwise I would have kept them inside of me. And I know I wouldn't have turned out, you know, to be like my friend's birth father. But I know that it would have made my coming out, like, you know, officially a lot harder. But I was just given a lot of grace and mercy in that situation. And I always just knew, I've always known a very unconditionally loving, like, motherly God. I haven't really, I've seen the others, but I haven't, that's not, they're not part of my program. That's just what it is. And so, and, you know, there, look at the irony that there's a book called The Axe, and so, like, ACTS, Axe, and it kind of, sort of, you know, makes you wonder where Hollywood is and all that, you know. And it's, I said, biblical subliminals, the BS. The books of faith are literally just legit guidebooks. They're not complete ways to live your life. It's just what it is. And yeah, but there was a point when I, you know, because of that woman that, you know, embodied an angel, like, I remember it like it was, you know, played out like a movie, because it was just, it was so scary for me to ask those questions. And I remember the look on her face, there was a quick second, and you know, females, we have like 5,000 different facial expressions according to how some algorithm in our faces was whatever, but it's like 5,000 different things, I guess, that come out of our face. But I just remember that quick second, and I feel that, you know, it was very much like a, I don't know, shit, but it was like a like, is this individual that has all this wisdom and esoteric knowledge as a child asking me questions like this? And that was like the quick 1 second thing. But then after that, it switched. It was like I caught the energy, and it was like something, the angel came in. And, you know, there were others on the bus that day. I don't even remember where we were driving to. Maybe it was Falls Creek, I don't know, but, or some church event. But it was a drive, but, I mean, I came out the gate with it, like, a mile down the road, and, I remember, you know, this is probably one of those things where it was good that I didn't have a lot of friends, but, 'cause I just didn't care. But, I just remember there being prying eyes, looking, and, I had someone sitting next to me, but, she had someone sitting next to her, but it almost felt like none of them can hear a damn word we were saying, but they were trying to cure it. But then, you know, today, you know, I've had situations where there are people that, and I'm speaking a lot of this just because, like, I feel like there's some of you that may have had these experiences, and then maybe there's something that may have came about like this, and so it's like I try to give out the details so you can, like, think like perhaps, you know, it was the same, because there are patterns, and so yeah, it was almost like they're like perhaps they were other angels of a council of some sort, and they were just sitting there in those other bodies for that moment, when I needed to ask those questions, and there everybody was listening, and it was a very in the spirit moment, and it was also because of that moment that I when I did, you know, eventually come out, and, you know, my family made a spectacle of it. I just was able to go back to that energy, that moment on the bus with my mentor, and put on that cloak of protection, you know, knowing that they're that I was given grace in that moment, and, you know, it's developed over time more and more that I try to visit that energy, but usually I don't, because I'm like I am who I am, and I've been like that way before I even knew that I was, you know, attracted to females, and way before I knew I was fulfilling some prophecy, but I had a feeling that it had to do with the Bible when I was asking those questions, and not just because of what the book of Romans said and just them, being burned and all the things that happened to them. It was a lot like kind of, I guess somewhat of like what happened with the Salem witch trials in a way. When you think about how cycles and patterns and energy plays out throughout history, history has energy, but people try to give it timelines, and then but they don't explain why, because they can't put the book of faith in there. And I'm like, really, like the books of faith are history books. They really are. But look how far it's really, gotten us all. You live, you learn, you evolve, and they should teach the ERP system in the stages, in school. But because of me knowing all that, it was, I was able to self-heal from, the shame that my own blood tried to get me to live in. And, throughout life, I haven't had a lot of people be able to give me some kind of answers or anything like that. And I know that with the LGBTQ plus community, there's you always have the questions, but we all just kind of would tell each other or coming out stories, and the pattern, there's a pattern of, mainly a lot of the dads, some of them didn't even read the doggone Bible, but they had one. And some of the, mainly females I talked to, but only like a couple of males, but a couple of them said that their fathers threw the Bible at them. And I'm just like, shit. Wow. But I don't know. I didn't pay their bills, but yeah. When I would just hear all these other stories in the community, and some of them didn't even, it was like literally like a war story for them, and they didn't want to tell it. It's like, it was almost like trying to pry it out of them, people went to Vietnam, and the stories they don't want to tell. It was like, that was another thing that let me know, like, when you're the LGBTQ plus community, it's not really about what you're seeing. It's a spiritual warfare. That's what it is. Because there's so many questions you ask yourself, and it really forces you to go within. But it's like, if you already know, you know. I look at myself, from, being able to travel through time and things like that. And, there are certain things I need to be present for, but then I wondered, why I was in a place I didn't really want to be in. But I was there, and even though I didn't want to be there, I still, try to make best of the situation the best I could. Because I was there, and I knew that before I even got into the military, because they'd be doing a lot of that. It was like, I knew that I needed to be present in the state I was present in, because there was going to be a wave of the LGBTQ and me identifying as an earth angel, and because I was given grace in my situation, I already embodied a very divine source energy that helped, set a different tone for that state. And, you know, I didn't realize it at the time. Because like I said, I just, you know, was there, and I removed myself from the situation, because I had self-growth to do. And, you know, if the people around me aren't doing it, or self-growing, or they don't have a desire to do that, and sometimes really just about the desire and the fire, you know, and the passion, you know, and then, like, specifically what they're passionate about, and they just weren't, they were more in the energy of, you know, very spiteful energy, and I was like, I just don't want to be in that. And I, you know, found something else to do. And it's surprising, a lot of them didn't like me either. And I'm like, I'm used to that. I'm used to people not liking me. But, you know, I got so used to it. But I think a lot of it happened because, you know, it was a result of me always having to answer my own questions. And, you know, society tells you that you always have a community, and I do believe that. But, you know, the community and the soul tribe I belong to, very unworldly, and so it doesn't, it's almost like an LGBTQ, but it's like more than that, you know. And that's, and even, you know, they had a hard time, you know, accepting me. They knew about me, but they had a hard time accepting me for who I am, because, you know, to them I look like, you know, it's like I mirrored something to them they didn't like. And so, you know, I've gone through life very internally feeling, I feel fulfilled because I live in my truth, but there's still an aspect of me, you know, needing home, you know, feeling like I belong somewhere. And, you know, it's, we grow out of situations, and, I would always wonder why I would have, these, you know, why people were like, even, you know, at one point I was very feminine looking, but a lot of guys, you know, or males, they would, you know, pick up on my very feminine energy. And when I would say, like, no, bro, like, we playing for the same team, like, they, you know, they would say some of the same things that my parents would say. And it was, it's a phase. It's just a season. You'll grow out of it. And, I was like, I don't even know who the flip I am. I mean, you know, my mother tried. But I didn't expect her to. I was just glad she tried. But, you know, and, you know, she found ways to try to scope creep it, but, she made it very awkward sometimes, when I was, you know, quote, dating somebody or whatever, but, she made it very awkward. But, my mother didn't have a hard time living in her truth at all. But, you know, she struggled with that, and like it's like how I am, you know, but I'm very, you know, conservative mind because there's a reason for it, and so that's how I've always been able to be empathic and understanding and still unconditionally love, but I don't have to put up with the bull crap, and I don't, you know, I don't fit society's programs because I just haven't ever been attached to them. I just was there to gain empathy and then make my own world, you know, with my twin flame. And that's the things that, you know, relates very closely to the LGBTQ plus community, is that when I was in the state I needed to be in to hold space for that energy until it came in, you know, I took responsibility for that, and I own that, but, you know, I wasn't out there saying it, and so, that's, you know, now there are others, you know, I was there, I did what I needed to do, I got out, and then others came in and filled that space, and so, you know, when it comes to that's what I'm trying to get at, is like, you're holding a space for a very sacred sexual energy, and so when you go out and you abuse it, that's that stuff that, you know, it just keeps creating, there's gunshots going off as I say that, but I'm killing it. 211 as I say that, and they stopped. But, you know, when you abuse that power, because it is a power, it's a very strong power, you know, it creates the negative energy, you know, when you're doing deceitful stuff, like, you know, getting the straight person drunk and doing things, or, you know, trying to strategize, to get the, you know, straight person to, you know, fall in love with you, whatever it is that you do that's deceitful, where, like, you know, that person is straight, but they ain't, like, you wanna, and there's some part of an energy there, but it's like, unless you just really know how to read it, or if you know, like, the not, you know, very, prying and embarrassing questions, you know, because there are those stuff still, those embarrassment moments still exist, but it's like, you know, you try to go out and embarrass somebody, because this happened to me, you know, people would ask me questions, but some of them try to do it, not very often, maybe like 2 people, you know, since I've been out, they asked, well, I take that back, I had a couple of siblings that were just, they were step siblings that were very rude and mean to me, but I'll get to that part in a minute, but, yeah, I had a couple individuals outside of my siblings that, were asking me questions, you know, it wasn't an offline conversation, it should have been, but, they were being very prying, and they were, the energy that was there, they wanted me to be embarrassed, but it was also one of those situations where, you know, I was in my leadership mode, which I've always, you know, lived in, that's how I came out the womb, and people don't like that, but it's like, I'm just mirroring to them what they need to be, and that's what the world needs right now, is leadership, and it doesn't really matter who you love, you know, you know, glass animals, glass house, you know, it doesn't, none of that matters. What matters is leadership, and then owning, you know, your moments of leadership, and then knowing and having integrity. It's leadership. Like, a higher power you believe in is a leadership energy because you believe in a leader of something other than yourself, something greater than yourself. But it also mirrors back to you what you're supposed to be in life. So it doesn't matter if you're a gay leader. It don't matter, you know. But it's always leadership, because that is what the world, and that's what America, especially being first world country, needs to, you know, understand for, you know, user interface. Like, we are leaders in, you know, development, and we may outsource our production and manufacturing, but we're trying to bring it back more to us, because obviously those energies aren't, they need to talk to communicate with each other, and it's not happening. And you know everything's up in tits, you know. But it's just like, I've just gone through a lot of my life, you know, just being in that leadership energy. I've had people literally hate me for not only just living in my truth as being a lesbian, but also living in my truth and my ability to be a leader. And it's like they want to love those things, or especially the leadership part about me, but then they don't, you know, they don't know how to unconditionally love all of me. And I'm like, when I was, you know, in the military, I didn't, rank was not something I just didn't give two fucks about it. That's just what it was. Because as above, so below, I've always been connected to source. So I mean, I didn't really care. I tried. I will say I attempted, and I tried to use, quote, chain of command, but you know, outside of my state, there were some that knew that I'm connected to source very directly. And so when I would say or do something a certain way, which was just training, and I didn't understand why it had to be, you know, so they would try to make it very difficult and hard. But you know, it was like they just didn't understand, or you know, they would just report that, you know, I did this or that, and then they'd get all you know, pissy about it. And for a lot of times, you know, I can mesh and vibe with whoever, really, but you know, I learned to be more discerning with that. I mean, like, I'm accepting and unconditionally loving, but at the same time, I'm not you know, if you're coming at me with some crap, I'm not about it. And you know, that's I've been very consistent with that, and that's what they didn't like. But I was, you know, when the service, I was very I didn't quite get it whenever I would see other you know, lesbians in the service that were, you know, they were able to just exist and coexist very, you know, in a flow. And you know, I found it confusing that, you know, for some reason I somehow wasn't able to coexist the same way. And that's when I learned that I was just there to be present, to absorb, you know, all the hatred and all the things that they would have experienced, just so they can coexist in a flow state. And then I was the one taking the brunt in the spiritual aspects of things. And so I've always been, you know, I was always fighting a spiritual warfare. And you know, you know, I just didn't quite get that, but I understood that there was a point where I had to hold a space for, you know, these other individuals coming in. And it's always been like that, you know. And eventually, you know, I got to the point where I got tired of it. God got tired of it, and you know, I detached and, you know, cut cords so quickly that you know, so I really started seeing, you know, the people that hate me or hated me. You know, I don't believe anyone hates me now, but because they don't exist in my reality anymore. You know, if you're not for me, you don't get a door to me, you know. And I made that up just now, but, you know, it's just there's just so much that goes into this. And I mean, this one I really tried to structure it out, write it out. I mean, I ain't even kidding. Like I said, I'll take pictures of the note card and I'll put it on my channel, but it was just like I had written it out on like 3 different things. You know, kind of, I've got really like in my alchemy today, and I was like, this is very structured. This is what it's gonna look like. It's like I don't need a long video that's gonna take forever to, you know, upload. And but it was just so loaded, and because it wasn't just about you know, LGBTQ plus. It was also about spiritual warfare, and whether or not some of you all realized it or not, but it was like that's what it is when you are about to come out, or it's like in your before stage, or when you come to realization, like, hey, I'm you know, I like the same sex, or I feel like I don't, you know, I'm not supposed to be this in my body, or, you know, be transgender. Like, I don't feel like, I feel like this is more like who I'm supposed to be. It's like there's you know, no one gives you the answers. They don't explain to you anything about the spiritual warfare. And like I said, you know, people have pushed out, you know, there's more, you know, all souls, like all encompassing, like more accepting churches now, but you know, there's still that stigma that, you know, if you walk in the building, you're gonna catch up fire, and I can promise you it ain't gonna doggone happen. But you know, don't go in there with that mindset. But I mean, like, it's just it's not as existent, but there's still not the, you know, the messages there. And I just don't want y'all just going in and going with emotions, because at some point there is a part where you do have to be, you know, kind of start over in a way, because it's a cycle. And you know, unfortunately for some of y'all, it's just what it is. But I already went through it, because I understood that as like, okay, well, there's a point where I have to go. And I went to one that wasn't quite gay friendly yet, but I still showed up in my power and my presence. And you know what, and I didn't have any issues. People were actually very nice, and that made me understand like, hey, like, this is gonna be okay. So I already played out that energy. It already exists. But I just feel like with all the things going on, and it being the Aquarian year, next year the spiritual year, you know, it's like there's just so much more that the LGBTQ plus community has to offer. And I know there's a lot of things out there that we all do, because I would get the invites, but, you know, they weren't for me, because mine looks just really different, and a lot of it is having to do with, you know, the quantum entanglements. And then I just put it out so you all know kind of what's going on in the, you know, quantum realm of things. And that's part of my purpose and my twin flames purpose. But you know, even then there's just certain aspects of it where you know, you know, if you're on that twin flame journey and you're kind of like in the same similar situation I am in, and you don't quite, because there is that part that comes through where you don't want to speak truth to it because you might be afraid to, you know, overly heal your twin, and that they, you know, the individual that you've been, you know, vibing with, and, you know, fighting in spiritual warfare, and, you know, just, you know, killing demons in this world, or in the old world, you know, because I feel like my twin flame and I do not live in, we created our heaven on earth, and we're just, you know, moments away from, you know, physically sharing that together. But it's like what we created in the 5D, and the fights we had in spiritual warfare. It was it played out a lot of different prophecies of our book of faith, but it was just like, you know, if there's a part of that where like you've got such an intimate level of understanding and understanding, you know, even though one of the twins, you know, like mine is more, she had to learn to do more of her masculine energy in a healthy way, and I related that to, you know, the situations where I'd hold space for the other, you know, lesbians or gay individuals in some units I was in, so that they would have an easier time than I did. But I didn't have that mindset. But I realized it was a pattern, why I needed to be there. And then years later, ironically, all of a sudden, you know, females are going in and they're becoming rangers and all these other elite, you know, and some females are just built for that, but then there's some that aren't, and it's like that just proves like you're not what society tells you. That's the example of the situation. You always have to find the example and the learning lesson of all this, you know, propaganda and media, you know, and the information traps. You have to read through all the crap. And so, but you know, I know that there's some of us out there that you might think like, you know, especially the ones conscious in the spiritual warfare, and, you know, that have, you know, a twin flame that, that is the same sex, and, you know, and then you're, you know, the more out of the closet individual, you know, it's, there is a deceitful, you know, energy there that, you know, try to come through with me, you know, and say, like, if you speak truth to this, that means you're, you know, your twin won't, you know, be gay, and, you know, you guys won't, you know, fulfill this life y'all made in the 5D, and it's not going to become a thing for you. And like, this is a demon that was trying to come through. Like, I don't, just because I'm an earth angel and I've done all this work doesn't mean, you know, they're still tests, but they're not like as hard as they used to be. But you know, it's like a check on learning thing, and that's how I always try to look at it. And it just got crazy, but now it's more like just a quick click, hey, you know. But it's like, it wasn't, a lot of times it'd come through like that. It just, there was a lot more of them that would try to come through, and I was like, this is not mine. And you know, when I started detaching from a lot of people and situations, that's when I, you know, that all the noise would stop, and I was like, that's how I knew it wasn't mine to live with. And I had to be energy aware and mindful, you know, in my energy, not just mindful in my words. And so it was another learning thing for me. But there was a demon that tried to come through, and today, you know, when I'm having all this stuff come out, and and this is only just a small part of what this was about to become, but so I really had to actively alchemize the messages out, and even then it still, is coming through, just to let it flow. And I guess just the way I need to go, let it flow, and I don't have an issue with that. But that demon, though, man, it was really trying to get me to not speak my truth. And I've put a lot of work, time, and energy to heal my twin, and like I said, I've been very alone feeling a lot of my life, but I known there were times when my twin showed up, even in a step sibling of mine that would bully me, and oddly my step sibling was the one that and a step mother I had created the step and let me know, like, they were the first to accept, but they were also the first to really get me to live in my truth of being gay. And I was like, oh, they get me. But then there was that double-edged sword where then my step-sibling started bullying me and making fun of me on the school bus, and would make me feel like shit. And I put a lot of trust in her, and so it was kind of weird that I did the same with my twin flame, but it was still just the fact that it was an energy, but it it still hurt. And then I remember there being a couple times where I remember my step sibling was trying to be an absolute a-hole to me, and she just wouldn't stop making fun of me, and I was raised to respect my elders, so we were only maybe 6 months apart, maybe less. I think it was about 6 months apart in age, but she was an older one, and I remember because my twin flame is also older than me, there's that whenever our energies exchanged and we came into our awakening, she took on some of my family's BS, and I took on some of hers, but I went through it pretty quickly because I had already healed a lot of my own. I was just kind of stuck in a time that I didn't need to exist in anymore, and I was waiting for my growth. I was waiting to get to divorce all my past life. I mean, the memory is still there, but because it needs to be there, because I had thought energy that healed all that, and I did it with my heart mainly, and then up into my crown. But it was still just that part has to still exist, so the collective can heal from it, from anything that might be lingering around. And these are those blueprints, and I built and set, and I did all these things, because I'm a builder, but and a creator, and a divine being, and an earth angel, and all that. So I did that. That's me. That's just a part, but it was just like, I know that there was a point where my twin in the spirit was coming through my step sibling at some point. And oddly, there was a picture of my twin flame that kind of also resembled my step sibling in a very uncanny way. But I was like, she's a shapeshifter, so I get it, I understand. And it's not like a super surprise, but it was like I tried to not note it for a while, and the other day I was like, yeah, well, I saw it. Yeah, I saw it, like, whatever. But, yeah, you know, but that demon really didn't want me to speak any doggone truth into this, and, you know, give some answers for those that might be still seeking it, and even though you think you're past it, you know, I know that there's sometimes that inner child, that, you know, the sacral chakra, which was mainly what this has started from, where your emotions are at, and there's still that inner child that needs, you know, healing, and you know, sometimes when you approach that conversation with your parents that didn't accept you, because that's part of the energy, and, like, you know, I'm not saying you have to do it, but I'm just saying it. You'll see some changes and some shifts in your reality once you do, you know, go to your parents, if they're still alive. If not, you know, you can. The pattern repeats, and you'll have other opportunities to exercise out that moment. And if you don't, you know, and if you, whether you bear the children or not, but if you have children that come in, you know, they'll have to, they get, the energy passes because of the thought, and, you know, that's, a lot of why, you know, I don't know if I remember mentioning it or not, but why Valerie means, you know, knew she needed to separate from her children, because she had to have strong faith that they're going to be all okay, and then, but she intuitively knew that there was something else going on in the spirit, and she needed to leave so that her children didn't, see eyewitness to the energies that were coming after her that she needed to work through. And so, you know, it's one of those things, like, people talk about, are you a good parent, you know, and in a three-dimensional sense, but, you know, no one ever talks about being a good parent in the spiritual sense, and that's really where it counts. And so that was the path she ended up having to take. But me, you know, coming in this situation where with my twin and the whole LGBTQ situation as well, there's a few different situations, and so you know, that demon, when it was trying to, you know, tell me, you know, there might be a chance that your twin, you know, will just heal, and you know, twin won't be gay, and you guys won't live out, you know, this life that you all have created in the 5D, and all this shit, right? And you know, to me, I was like, well, contingencies, and I was like, you know what? Unconditionally loving, you know, regardless if, you know, my twin flame, if that happens or not, you know, I was already willing to accept the fact that, you know, not a fact, I don't really want to say fact, but, you know, because I don't want to project in case, you know, that, it really is a thing. I mean, even though she was throwing the doggone signals, and I was just pushing them back, you know, and, you know, I felt kind of bad for that at first, but, you know, there was a reason, you know, and some her and I say to each other, there's a reason, and there's some other weird synchronicities with that, but, you know, but regardless, you know, if, you know, it doesn't, like, if we just go back to how the original energy was, where I was like, we just need to be friends, you know, I'm okay with that, you know, I really am, and I've had to sort through that quite a bit, because I didn't, the weird thing is, like, I didn't want, even though she was throwing the signs, and signals, you know, with her, there is an aspect of that, because, you know, her being a shapeshifter, I mean, it made more sense once I knew that, but I still didn't want to project that at her, because it's still her, even though we share the same soul, she still has to make her choices, and I still have to make my choices, and, you know, like I said, I pushed her away, and then it was like we mirror, but it's like we don't really mirror, sometimes we just do the complete damn opposite, you know, but we know how to work with that, and make it happen, because we're both very strong leaders, you know, and there's a lot of aspects that, you know, we're like freaking ninjas, like, in a lot of ways. It just blows my mind, like, what we do and how we do it, but there's things that, you know, she gets and I don't get, like, but we know how to balance. We have a lot of good balance there, not too many temper tantrums, you know, anymore, but, you know, it's just, she has her choices and I have my choices, and, you know, as much as, you know, I have really invested in, because I got a lot of things going on, but in the spirit, you know, but they're all just kind of waiting, you know, and I think today was one of those days that it just, you know, I needed to really, it's just like one of those breakthrough days, and so, I didn't even know, like I said, I didn't even know today was the first day of LGBTQ month, and I didn't even know it was a month. I thought it was only like the first week. This person over here, like, slamming in this trash can. Unless I got food, man, I'm not even trying to go out there and see, but yeah, regardless if it, you know, goes out or not, the ultimate, you know, level of unconditional love is that, you know, a lot of the scenarios that were played out in the 5D were very much, you know, my twin flame and I having, you know, a romantic relationship together. You know, I've talked about it, and a partnership, and all these things, and, you know, that we've created this world, but there's still those unknown things where you don't always know for sure. But, you know, when that demon came through, I was just like, it got annoying, but it's like, I don't care, you know. At the end of the day, I unconditionally love my twin flame so much that, you know, I respect her choice any way she wants to, you know, handle that. And, you know, being in a divine mother energy, I also, you know, want to speak how to speak a lot of truth to things, because you know, there's kids that get adopted into families they don't know, and there's a lot of LGBTQ that adopt and foster children, you know, and so this is another reason why I need to speak truth into it, because there's so much that goes on energetically, and there's such a big quantum entanglement, I think, and I know that's why, like, there was a lot of issues with it, because, you know, society doesn't know that, but I know that because I paid attention. But at the end of the day, you know, it's all about unconditional love, loving unconditionally, having compassion, being kind, you know, luck, and what you put out is what you get back. But yeah, I, you know, even though the more, you know, being in a same-sex relationship is played out more in the 5D, as far as, you know, visions and downloads and stuff like that. There's still there's still a very strong, you know, friendship aspect to it, but ultimately you want to, be friends with your lover as well, and then, have that healthy balance. And ultimately you're always your own friend, your own lover, your own, and I got used to being very alone throughout a lot of my life. I was just there to hold space in a lot of things. And so when I found out about my twin, yeah, I did push it away, and our energy switched so back and forth on so many days. And then, but I mean, she wanted me to know, but I, because that energy still exists for her, to be in a same-sex relationship, and like ultimately, like I know that I would be the, perfect, match and candidate for that. But at the same time, I'm just speaking truth because I want this demon to go away. But I also want her to know that regardless, of what she chooses, I'm, if it just ends up as a friendship, like that's totally cool. And I can totally handle that because obviously I handled it, in the beginning, and I was like, yeah, we ain't doing all that craziness. That ain't happening. No, ma'am. So I've always held the space for the more responsible energy, being the divine being in the situation, but I didn't even look at it that way for the most part. I speak truth through it now more, but to me, it's just a dynamic, it's a very divine dynamic. And, she's came through quite a bit, in the beginning of, the week, and, there's been a lot of signs, that, the universe and herself have been throwing, at me, letting me know, like, this is what this is gonna be, and, y'all are gonna share and have life together, and, live together and all these things. But I just speak truth to that demon because it did try to show up, and I didn't want it getting away with, talking mad shit to me, and then, prevent me from speaking truth to a lot of this. And that's how I know, whenever I'm really onto something, is, aside from all the things that happened prior to this, message, it was right before I was about to, make the recording, and, the demon was trying to come through and talk shit to me, and I was like, yeah, fuck that. I was like, I really don't care. I was like, I mean, I care obviously, but I was like, I don't care what that thing, had to say, because ultimately I'm gonna, speak the truth. And, because I understand that energetically it's not always us, it's an energy. We have choices in the energy. My choice was, and my purpose is to speak the truth. And so, yeah, I just, yeah, I don't know if anyone else out there has that situation with your twin flame, but know that ultimately you should just unconditionally love them and just be happy for, your lover if they were just in the 5D, and, be accepting just to be friends if that's what it turns out to be. I mean, ultimately there's going to be a reunion, ultimately, because that energy has to play out. But, if it doesn't play out, as the same-sex relationship that, you may have been expecting, you should still just be supportive. And, you have to understand, like, and try to keep the mind that you guys went through spiritual warfare, in the 5D, and, there's many great rewards that have come to all of us for the work we've done, and, fighting those battles, and, for the collective that, chooses to still be unconscious to things, but we already went through these energetic experiences, and, with our twin flames and so on and so forth. But, you know, I lead by example, and so, yeah, there's a lot of times that the outcome can come up very, you know, not what we expected. But you have to make your contingencies and, you know, be okay. Like, don't overthink it, but just be okay. It's not like settling, it's just, you know, you have to have respect. And on the twin flame journey, it's, you know, everybody's in these mindsets that, you know, you're, because you guys share the same soul, that,